Gonna come right out and say it, Little Nightmares 2 is really great, and I think it's a game you should not miss. I've been playing a review copy for a couple days now, and after finishing it, I'm absolutely in love with it. It also kind of made me realize how much I kind of like this subgenre. I guess it's a subgenre. I don't even know what you would call it, but essentially games like Limbo and Inside and Little Nightmares, and now Little Nightmares 2, where it's just a very simple, straightforward, linear experience, 2 dimensions with some moody horror aesthetics, and it's not super long, and you just play through it, and it's an incredibly memorable experience. Also, real quick, I'm not going to talk spoilers until the end of the video. I will give you a fair warning. I think you should absolutely play the game, experience it for yourself, but I got a lot of good stuff to say, but I gotta hold some of it for the spoilers, because there's so much to talk about. But go play it, come back, there will be a spoiler warning in the second half of this video. So yeah, I'll admit I was like really late to the boat with Little Nightmares. I only played it just this year, realized how fantastic it was, and then when Little Nightmares 2 showed up in my inbox and I had to make a video for work, I was blown away. I also, frankly, beat it in like one sitting, which that's the thing that we're going to talk about, length and short experiences, because this definitely is a short experience, but what you get from it is the fact that moment to moment, back to back, it is just firing on all fucking cylinders, and it's paced extremely well, and it'll hook you. And I can actually say, like, I think part of the charm is that this game is just a quick and done experience. I also could play a game that takes place in this world, in this setting, in these scenarios, with this gameplay. I could play like a really long version of this game. But just a little taste, the little bite the developers give you here. It's a studio from Sweden. It's just really, really satisfying. So if you're just jumping into Little Nightmares 2, thankfully you don't have to play the first one. There's little things that do heighten it, which I'll talk about it in a little bit, I think. But essentially, you are this little boy, and you're dumped down into the woods, and you go. Very quickly, you get an AI companion, and it is Six, who is the main playable character from the first game, but it doesn't really matter too much because the game does introduce you to her. And you go on this very, very simple adventure, basically walking from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, but as it escalates, there's so much more to it. And what I love the most about this game is, like I said, the pacing, because of the environments and the little gameplay mechanics. I almost want to say gimmicks, but not really in a bad way. But it's like you move on to a new area. There's always like a new enemy, a new thing to worry about, a new way to hide, a new little gadget or trick to use. And that's what kept making it exciting, of course, from a gameplay perspective. But what I also liked is that with that, each area kind of explored a different horror trope. And as someone who enjoys horror, it was very cool to see you move from area to area in Little Nightmares, from spooky hospital to scary, unnerving classroom to just apartment buildings to stuff I won't spoil until the end of this video. And yes, it's very much, if you've played like a Silent Hill or something, like, you go around to these different locations, but the way they explore it here, not only just with the environment, but the enemy type and what you're doing within, is just awesome. And it was incredibly satisfying, like, the whole freaking time. Especially what they do with some of the more suspenseful moments, like when you are being pursued or you're hiding from a big character because you're just this little person in this much bigger world. It's like they know how to design the escape by the skin of your teeth moments. It is absolutely their intention, the way they made this game, to make it feel like every time you escape or you get through that door or you get through that hatch as that monster's chasing you, you feel like you really just barely made it. And it's so satisfying the way they build it. You can tell that the margin is very small. There's a lot of trial and error in the game, and it might frustrate some people, but the way they nail that feeling when it all works, when you just escape, your heart's pounding, and they do just such a good job. And that, my friends, is the most important thing, the feeling. The feeling this game gives you. I make videos in this channel. I like to just talk about stuff I like, and sometimes it's just the raw, visceral feeling. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about this. It does that. It gets your heart pounding, but it's not like an outright scary game. I only get scared by specific things, But essentially, it's more atmosphere, it's more mood, it's more unsettling tone the entire time. And then when the action or the monster stuff does amp up, it's really just tension more than anything. It builds tension, and then there's essentially like in certain areas of the game, there's like almost like like a release. Those releases are great, but then there's also a lot of time for the game to kind of like, take its time and settle in and let you kind of smell the roses a little bit. There are long periods where you're just walking, you're strolling either alone or with your partner 6, who you can hold hands with. There's like a hold hands button that I really appreciate as someone who used to play Eco. Mechanically, it's not really important. The AI stuff isn't really that big of a deal with you having a companion. But what was I saying? Yeah, so like you're walking along, whether it's with your companion or alone, and the game takes time to really kind of pan out and show you the landscape and make you feel small, give you kind of some existential dread in this massive, gross world. Or you're cruising along, just like moments like that, and the music plays, there's a musical cue, and that's the other thing, the music. This is one of those games that you should play with headphones. The music, actually, honestly, the lack of music sometimes, just that slow, mood-building, atmospheric soundscape, and the music, and especially like the musical cues when certain things happen, like when you pick up a key item, or you figure something out, or an enemy reveals itself, or whatever. All that stuff is top notch, and you would think, I mean, the game has a budget. This game does ooze quality, but then again, it's also like 5 hours long, 4 hours long. I don't even know, but it's still important, I think, where it's like a game that I immediately finished and I wanted to replay to just connect a couple little things with the story. I've done that in other games in this subgenre I mentioned earlier. Really, what I'm trying to say is like, definitely play this. I know it's short. It's $30 at retail or $25 if you get it on sale on Steam, like right when it launches. But like the original, if you don't get around to it immediately, but still, it's worth playing. Absolutely. I think for me, I'm going to remember this game for the rest of the year. I think it might be in my game of the year list, or at least runner up in 2021. The year's early. It's freaking February, but I'm happy that there's like a good, exciting game that I know is going to stick with me throughout the year. So I'm saying whenever you have the cash or whenever you have the time, whatever, definitely consider checking it out. Especially if you love horror. You're not going to scream your pants off, but if you just like that vibe, if you like spooky vibes, if you like gross horror designs and art, go for it, dude. But the rest of the things I want to say are spoilers. So spoiler warning, go play it. It's not very long. Even if you have kids or a busy life, you can definitely play through it. But if you're still here for spoilers, anyway, I don't really even like need to talk about specific story spoilers. The ending is cool. I'll get to that in a second. But what I really wanted to highlight is just some of the moments. I think I've played a lot of games that have the mannequin gimmick, the dummy, the spooky mannequin in the corner in the dark that your flashlight grazes over. But this game explores it in really interesting ways, and I found it so satisfying and so stressful. It's just so good. So the way you have to use the flashlight and like kind of like corner your way through a room, shining the light. So there are dummies or mannequins that come to life in the darkness and move towards you. But if you point the light at them, they stop. You know they're coming towards you. You have to kind of manage walking away from them and moving around them while pointing the flashlight at them so they don't get you. But then multiple mannequins start walking around you, and you frantically kind of move your light from one to the other, and there's no perfect way to get through it, which I think is really brilliant in the way they designed it. Again, it goes back to what I was saying before with like that scrape by the skin of your teeth feeling, where there's no way to really kind of finagle around getting your flashlight on all of them effortlessly. It is a mess, and you kind of just, I'm like knocking the table over, but it's like a mess the whole time, and it's so cool, and it worked perfect. By the time I got through that sequence, I was like, wow, they nailed it. There are many games that have done that type of thing, that trope, and this is the best. And if I'm talking about that, let's just go for it. The other trope that the game explores, where at first I was like, they're doing this really? They're taking the concept of like the ring with the TV, the Japanese horror, but also Slender Man, having the imagery of a Slender Man type figure coupled with the static effects of like the original Slender Man game. Really? But then minutes later playing through, I was like, oh man, they're doing it better than I could have ever hoped. and it's really cool. From Mono, the little kid, like kind of stumbling his way through a TV screen every single time, that effect, the sound effect, the visual effect, and the gameplay, like the puzzle solving aha moments really made it excellent. Coupled with the story ramifications of it and how it all kind of wraps up, where Mono ends up being the TV guy. It is a very cool concept to explore, and I'm not smart at this stuff. The first game, this whole theme, the thing it kind of pursued by the end of the story, at least for me, was like the hunger aspect of 6. And now with this one, I don't know, like Mono, it's like a kid, TV kid grows up to become TV asshole monster. I don't know. I don't have a lot of words. There are absolutely people who can write think pieces about this, and I'm really curious to see what they come up with, and so I can digest it. But the way it ends, I don't know. I really want a Little Nightmares 3. 6 is still alive. I imagine it would come back to 6 being the playable character, and it would be really cool if they came up with a way to bring Mono back as the TV guy, or some in between, and the next game is you essentially maybe as 6 redeeming Mono, because in a way Mono helped save 6, but then 6 at the end of the day had to sacrifice Mono because of what he would ultimately become. But we've seen that I guess he still becomes that in that horrific sequence with like the blobs moving towards you. I don't know about you guys, but like I've had like nightmares where there's like a blob just coming, and like you ever have those dreams where like the room's getting bigger and you're getting smaller, like it's that type of thing, and they did it so perfectly. But I'm curious to see where they could take those concepts. I really hope they do. I hope this game is a success. I think I like Sweden. I like the Swedish people and like their way they design games, and I hope more comes from this. That's about it. That's what I got. I love this game. Again, recommend it, but I want to hear from you guys what you're thinking. Of course, let me know. If you played the original Little Nightmares, I would love to know what you're thinking. But if you've played Little Nightmares 2, if you blasted through it, I really want to know what you think of the ending and stuff, dude. What do you think about the ramifications of like what went down and the characters, where they could possibly end up for the next game? Let's talk about any of that stuff down in the comments. I definitely want to hear from you guys, so hit me up. Let's chat down there. I also got to say, of course, if you click the like button, that really helps me. If you like what I'm doing here, just trying to talk about things I love in games and movies, clicking the like button legit helps. But I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. Subscribe because video games.